So every one of us, don't care who you are, face giants in your life. And it seems like that every week we get new giants. We're sitting here and you're thinking about it. And let's just go back 2 years ago. Let's actually go back about 2.5 years ago. Okay? 2.5 years ago, it was September, October. Everybody's getting ready for Christmas. And everybody's rejoicing and everybody's happy and everybody's ecstatic. We're getting ready and all of a sudden Thanksgiving kind of hits. And all of a sudden the news comes across on the TV. There's this new virus that has been found in, and I'm not politically correct, so I just call it what it is. It's called the coronavirus, and it's not named after the Corona beer, okay? It is a corona, it's a virus that is corona, okay? Kind of like, or SARS, which is kind of there. And there are different ones that come from the coronavirus, okay? Pneumonia, flu, all of those. But all of a sudden, they found it in a little place called Wuhan province in China. They're getting ready for the Chinese New Year. They found it in Wuhan, and what did they do? They shut down travel in China. From China to Wuhan, you could not travel. But you could travel from Wuhan to the rest of the world. Well, a lot of the people in Wuhan province were seamstress or tailors and all of that. So guess what? Italy is a great place for those people to go to get jobs leaving China and working in the factories that China owns in Italy. So from Wuhan, they have this virus and they go to Italy, and all of a sudden it starts spreading in Italy and to the rest of the world, because people are coming from there to the rest of the world, and all of a sudden it starts just going wild. So for the next 2 years, we go into lockdown. Then kids are taught to stay home. No social activity or interaction with other people. Mothers and fathers who were working now become mom, dad, babysitter, cook, housekeeper, and teacher. And all of a sudden, parents are now finding out exactly what's being taught in the schools by the teachers. And they're finding, hold on, this doesn't sound right. Well, I'm sorry, Common Core. Now we call it CRT. And so guess what? People started getting upset. Parents started going to school board meetings and speaking up and becoming vocal. Until now, the school boards want the parents labeled as terrorists because they're interrupting our school board meetings. Kids who haven't been in school for 2 years have now been just moved up. They weren't tested on did they learn anything in those 2 years. Parents were teaching, doing the best they could. And then we're going to drop it, and everybody's going to go travel. But we have another giant. It's called an election. And as everyone knows, elections have consequences. We now go from $1.59, $1.90 something per gallon of gas to every state in the United States now has $4 a gallon gas. Most are higher, but everybody now has $4. Across the board, everybody does now. Okay? Well, they're going to do something. We're going to solve this issue. We're going to shut down drilling. We're going to shut down pipelines. And what we're going to do is we're going to take and give money to Iran and get their oil. And guess what? It's already been told it will become $6 a gallon by the 4th of July. It's amazing. And by the way, inflation is now the worst it's ever been. The stock market, which is a gauge for a lot of stuff, is the worst that it's been since 1929. What happened in 1929? Oh, the stock market crashed and everybody lost their money except for the banks. How many of you all know that since November, the Federal Reserve just prints millions and billions of dollars overnight and just delivers it out? Just flood the market with money because everybody thinks they got money, they're rich. Well, yeah, let's talk about that. If I had a quarter and I could buy something with that quarter, or I'm sorry, I have a penny. Used to, I could buy penny candy. Some of you aren't old enough to remember that, but some of us are. That penny candy now went to a store the other day. You know how much it cost? A quarter. They're trying to get rid of all coins. And soon they'll get rid of all paper money. You want to know why? Because it's all going to be on a card. And guess what? The bank knows every transaction that you make on this card. And the government is going to track every transaction. And I'm sorry, but guess what? The government, there used to be gamblers. The government is now in charge of the lotteries. Do you know that? That used to be illegal. Smoking was illegal. But then the government put the tax on the cigarettes. We don't want you smoking anymore, but we want to collect the taxes. Beer, remember it used to be illegal? Now every state has a liquor board that controls the sale of liquor. Drugs used to be illegal. But now the government has found out how much money they can make off the drugs. So guess what? Marijuana is now legal. You used to go to jail for that stuff. Now the state controls who gets to sell it and who gets to basically harvest or plant it. The government has now become the crooks. They have now become the mafia. They control it all. They're trying to take and control building of houses. How can I control the building of houses? Make it too expensive for you to own them. And so we're facing all of these giants. And every day it seems like a new one. A school shooting, when we should have been trying to figure out, why did that young man do that? No, we're going to limit guns. Limiting the gun doesn't solve the problem of mental illnesses. That city of 15,000 people had no place to go if you have a mental illness. You had to go about 30 to 40 minutes away to find a hospital or a treatment center for that. Used to, people with mental illness, there were places that they could go to get help. You can't do that anymore because that is not good. You don't have mental facilities. We can't put people in mental facilities anymore. We need to let them get out there and mainstream them. And I'm not saying that they should be put away, but people need to be treated. They don't need to be just shoved along or just medicated. You can't medicate every problem, because some of the things, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, is because of sin, and cells mutate. And as our cells mutate, we get cancer, we get the flu, we get the cold, and we're going to get more and more and more of these giants. And what is people doing? Forgetting about what is all we need in our life to fight our giants. It isn't doctors, it isn't lawyers, and it definitely isn't a politician. God has given each and every one of us a God-given gift that is all we need to fight the giants in our life. Do you know that you are chosen by God? God chooses us all. Now, whether we answer that choice, that's ours. But if you answer that choice, may I say this to you and be as vocal as I can. For every struggle, every battle, and every giant that you are facing in your life, you have everything you need. Everything that Satan wants to throw at you, he has to get permission from God. And Satan is not more powerful than God. So the battle is here. As David said, the battle's not mine. It's yours, God. He is the general that's controlling the army. The problem is that we don't believe that he can conquer Satan. You don't understand, God. I've got all these things happening to me. They are so strong and so heavy. Let me tell you something. There is not one battle that you're fighting or going to fight that has not already been fought. The Bible says there is nothing new under the sun. It is cyclical. They say this is global warming. Go back through history and you will find that we have gone through the same things all of the time. And I got a question. If this is global warming, then why is it that in May you had a snowstorm in Colorado? I don't think that has anything to do with warming. That's cold. When's the last time we had a 90-degree temperature? We're in May, people, and it should be getting hot. Next week it will. But guess what? That's June. Yeah. I rest my case. The world is messed up, and the world will continue to be messed up because the only corrective factor to the world is God. And David understood this. So we need to understand that in this story we've been doing about David, there's a whole bunch of stuff to unpack. And we've been doing this the last 2 weeks. We got this week and next week and we'll finish. But let me say to you, I've given you this story, and I use this story, and I'll continue to use this story because there was a time in my life, it wasn't just mine, it was my wife and I. We have 2 children. And then we have a daughter. Okay, so now we have 3 children. My son Tim is 6 years older than Charlie, and Tom is 78, 4.5. Okay, 4.5 years. And so she comes along, and so older brothers pick on younger sister. Okay, that's kids. The boys are gone. And then Charlie comes along she's having some issues. We're trying to figure out what those issues are, and we don't know. Then all of a sudden they find out that she has a colloid cyst of the 3rd ventricle in the back of the brain, right above the spinal column, where the fluid from the brain is coagulating because I think I'm on. Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. Let me get this thing closer to my mouth. Can you hear me now? No. They can't hear me now. This is called Eat It. There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. I forget. She's hard of hearing. But anyway, so here's what happens. 15th birthday. We find out that there's something there. They go ahead and they find it on Saturday. And then Monday they do an operation. Okay? She's very popular in school. She's a cheerleader. She had already made the squad as a sophomore on the reserve squad. Long hair. And so anyway, what ends up happening, they have to basically separate the brain to go up underneath to cut this out. The part of the brain that they have to cut out is also short-term memory. Okay? Which kind of helped because she knew all of the moves because all of the moves were the same. They had been since she was in 6th grade. They would all do the same moves and all the same cheers, so she knew all of that. But she goes in and she starts cheering, and her mobility skills are just not there. So all of a sudden our life is turned upside down. Spending almost every week, 2-3 times a week, in teacher conferences, trying to find out what are her assignments, so we can help get her through that year. All of her friends, but a few, just deserted her. Some of the people that were cheering, they didn't want her on the cheer squad anymore because they couldn't win competitions unless everybody's in sync. And it's hard when you've got someone that's just not there. So all of a sudden, she's not as popular as she was. Bullied? Yeah. Made fun of? Yeah. And you're inside. You love your children. And I shared with you that we were still giving her gymnastic lessons. There were certain things that she was able to do that she couldn't do anymore. Diana's taking her this night, and we're watching her, and as she's coming in the car, and she's there, and she begins to start tearing up. And she tells Charlie, Charlie says, "What's wrong?" And she says, I just hurt because, I see, this really has affected you in so many ways. And what did she say to you? Yes. She said, I wish we could just go back and be the same way you were, and we could just crush out this year or so that this has been now. And Charlie said, I don't. Because this has made me rethink who I was. Because I used to be interested in boys. I was interested in this and this and this. And those things don't matter anymore. She became the advocate for those who were less fortunate in school. She had gone through this year, and it had toughened her up. So that when someone made fun of her, or a friend, or she saw people making fun of other kids in school, she would call them out. Her hair, when they shaved her head, they left the back here long. The rest of it's gone. So after the surgery and everything, we said, you need to get a haircut. And she says, don't touch it. I want it left. And she wanted it that way. We had to leave it. She wore a scarf. But yet, that changed her. And today, she's a pastor's wife. I've just shared with you, short-term memory, we would always go to her to figure out when the doctors gave us new medicine, would this counteract the other medicines that we were taking? Because why? She worked for, it's now Express Scripts, but I forget who it was in Fairfield, Medco. So if you had a prescription, she was the person that was checking to make sure your prescription that your doctor gave you did not counteract or conflict with the medication that you were taking. And you could tell her and she would know what they were. So the giants in her life that she had to get through, sometimes we looked at those battles and those struggles and the things that she was going through, and sometimes it overwhelmed us. But for her, she used that to get through what she was facing. Because why? God equipped her for that moment and that time, and then subsequently equipped us to be able to get through those times. And what does that make me? I think it makes us better parents. It made us better parents. It makes us better grandparents. We love our kids. And when we see something going on with our kids, we're the first ones to talk to our kids about it. Hey, you need to go get this checked out. You need to do this. And that. And other people. And I think this has helped me to be who I am and being able to relate to people and talk to people better than ever before. Because I can understand what people were going through and how they're hurting. I haven't been through it personally on my own, but I have a daughter that struggled in many ways. As we were, I was talking with Dave, and we was talking about a dog having seizure. We had one, but also first time I saw, my wife when she was pregnant in 1974 and had eclampsia and had gone into toxemia, right? Or toxemia into eclampsia. Okay, so it went into there, and she has a seizure. I've never seen that. And the only thing that I know is they tell you that you're supposed to make sure they don't swallow their tongue. That's what they told you back in the 70s. And so you have to look for something to use as a tongue depressor. And so you don't have anything. Never stick your fingers in there, because they will clamp down, and they don't know how much they're clamping, and they could basically almost bite your finger in two if you're not careful. I learned the hard way. I'll never do that again. But when you're seeing someone experiencing that, and someone that you love experiencing that, you don't know what to do. And you're going through that and you're hurting, But that helped me when my daughter was having hers later on in life. And so there are some times that it's very tempting when you're going through these things to look at other people's lives and wish that your life was different, that it was like theirs. And sometimes we don't realize these things, okay? Because when you see these things, you need to understand that comparing your life to other people, don't do that. You're not other people. You're you, chosen by God. And you need to understand that every giant that you're going to face, He's equipped you to handle it. So let's start. 1 Corinthians chapter, you got to be kidding me. I need to take the clock off the wall. Either that or make it bigger. Oh. Can you guys give me 15 minutes? Okay, give me that. Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 4 through 11. And this is why. The Bible is very clear about this. Now, there are different gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different ministries, but the same Lord. There are different activities, but the same God produces each gift in each person. A manifestation of the Spirit is given to each person for the common good. To one is given a message of wisdom through the Spirit, to another a message of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by one Spirit, to another the performing of miracles, to another prophecy, to another distinguishing between spirits, to another different kinds of tongues, to another interpretation of those tongues. One in the same Spirit is active in all these, distributing to each person as He wills. As He wills. This is God. So you need to understand something. Every one of us are given gifts to do what it is that God wants us to do. Every one of us are given different gifts. And this is why I say to y'all, and sometimes people don't understand, why, Pastor, are you so adamant about people attending church? The reason is because every one of us are given gifts. And the only way that we can have the completeness of gifts is you're here. If you've got a certain gift and you're not here, guess what? That's like okay? Every one of us are not general practitioners, okay? Every one of us are specialists in a certain area. You may say, hold on. Some of you might be brain surgeons. Some of you, yeah. Some of you are still looking for your brain. No, I'm only kidding. But each one of us are different in certain in every area. We've got these certain gifts. No one. May I say this to you all? And this is what really ticks me off about some people. I don't need church. So you're telling me that you've got all of the gifts? That's cool. God doesn't give not one person all of the gifts. Even Billy Graham would admit to you that he did not have all of the gifts of the Spirit. He would tell you he did not have the gift of interpreting tongues. Because when he went places to speak, he had an interpreter for him. He didn't speak in their language, he spoke English. When he was in China, when he was in Russia, when he was in Italy, in France, and in Germany, he spoke English while somebody else interpreted into their. Billy Graham would also tell you that he was not the best Christian, that he still had some problems. And one of them was he said that he regretted that he didn't do more. I don't know how much more he could have done, but that was what he did. So here's what happens, okay? And I'll tell you real quick. How many of you all know what white noise is? White noise. Do you know what white noise is? Okay? Okay, if you don't, let me ask you all to do something for me. I need you all to talk at the same time. Now, how many of you all understood that conversation? That's white noise. White noise is a whole lot of noises coming together, and you cannot distinguish what it is. Okay, it's not direct. This is our life. Satan uses white noise. He uses all kinds of voices that just keep battering us. You're not good enough. You don't look good enough. Look at that person over there. They're looking at you and they're talking. And they're talking about you. They think that you're not driving right or do this. And all of these things being bombarded at the same time. And the problem is we have a hard time trying to focus on 3 different conversations. Okay? And so what happens is, when all of this white noise is bombarding you, you're having a hard time to focus on the one voice that you should be listening to because all of the white noise is hitting you. When what we need to do is learn how to get rid of the white noise and listen to the clear voice of the Spirit of God. And when we focus on that, because what did Jesus say? Jesus said, if my sheep know my name, they will follow no other. When we listen to the Holy Spirit, we know that is the voice of God speaking to us, Jesus speaking to us, and we will follow that voice. But when we constantly get bombarded by Satan telling us we're not good enough, we're failing again, you're not a Christian, look at how wrong you are, then guess what? We become convinced that's who we are. My wife has got me watching this show called The Blacklist with this guy, Raymond Reddington. Okay? If you haven't seen it, it's really a cool show. You got to figure out what are they going to do next. And he said, yes, your past doesn't say who you are. May I say this to you? The only one that is reminding you of your past is not God. Okay? And let me say this to y'all. You can't go back and correct your past. As a matter of fact, can I give you a reminder? When you became a Christian, you became a new creation. And in God's eyes, you don't have no past. You only have a future. So quit letting your past define who you are. And quit using the past as an excuse for what you're doing now. Okay? Because your past is not who you are. As a matter of fact, when you got saved, you got a new name. You got a new beginning. You got a new slate. And all of these things are gone. They're only in your mind. And only reminded in other people's minds who don't want to let you forget. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, they're going to be reminded, if they're not a Christian, they're going to be reminded of their past, of their present, and Lord help them with their future. Because their future is not going to be pretty. It's going to be a lot of things they wish they'd given away or gone with, okay? And so what we need to do is we need to quit letting this white noise get airtime in our life. The more airtime you give that, then yes, that's what you will become, a doubter. And you'll doubt God. And you'll doubt, I don't know if that's really the voice of God. Let me say this to you. If you get in touch with God, you'll know it's Him. Because He will shut out the white noise. And we'll get to the point of clarification, okay? Here's what you need to understand. It is in 1 Samuel 17, 34, 36, Mark, skip there. Look at what he says, 34 to 36. There we go. David answered Saul, your servant has been tending his father's sheep. Whenever a lion or a bear came and carried off a lamb from the flock, I went after it, struck it down, rescued the lamb from its mouth. If it reared up against me, I would grab it by its fur, strike it down, kill it. Your servant has killed lions and bears. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. What we need to understand is remember where we've been. Okay? What was David? David was a shepherd. But where had he been? He had been over here tending the sheep. A lion came up, he grabbed it and killed it. A bear came up, he grabbed it and killed it. So guess what? If I can kill a lion and I can kill a bear and God was with me, then this uncircumcised Philistine, God will help me kill him too. Because God was there and protecting me at that point in time, and God is not going to fail me. He's going to protect me here. So one of the things is we need to understand this. If you go back to the point of Joseph when he was in Egypt, okay? His brother sold him. He was imprisoned. And guess what? He remembered where he was, okay? And you could see God moving with his life, even though he was imprisoned. God uses that imprisonment to help Joseph to get to the position of being Pharaoh's right-hand man, telling him and in control of everything, okay? And God was with Joseph, just as God was with David. And the thing of it is, if he gives us these stories to let us know that if I was with Joseph and I was with David, then guess what? I'm with you, Chuck. I'm not leaving you. And we need to do these things, okay? And so why do I need to remember these things? Okay? And remembering where I've been helps me to understand where I'm going. That no matter what, God has always been there. When we were getting ready for our surgery, and they told me I was going to have to do this. My wife kept saying, "Hold on a minute. We don't have a will. What happens if you die?" So I had to take, and I had one, never signed it. So I signed it and I gave it to her. And I said, "Okay, fine. If I die during this, you're covered. It's there. But I also know that I'll be okay because God's still with me." Okay? And so what we need to understand is that even if I wasn't okay, God's still going to be with me. This is just, the song said, this is just a temporary home that I'm going through, that you're going through. This is not my permanent fixture, or yours either. And last thing is, God gave David all that he needed. What we want is more. There are so many times that we get bombarded with the white noise that we think, I can't do this. I think I shared with you this. Okay? It's okay to think you can't do this. As a matter of fact, you need to understand you can't do this without God's help. And God's going to give you all you need. David, I shared with you, he gave him 5 small stones. Did it take all 5 stones? It only took 1 to fall that giant. He didn't need all 5. He just needed 1. So many times what we keep asking God for is more ammunition. And God says, it only takes 1 shot. If you take the 1 shot and hit the mark, it will fall. What we want to do is a shotgun approach. Fire like buckshot. Fire it and hope it hits. And God says, no, I do a direct shot. And that's what I want to do in your life. We're not scattering this stuff. We're hitting directly. And what we need to do is, and I found out this a long time ago. It's like this. This church is built to seat 201 people. I can give you all kinds of approaches on how to fill this place up with 200 people. It comes in my inbox every week. Here, let me show you how to reach 200 people. And we could get 200 people in here next week. Here's what we could do. We could offer you to come as you are. And by the way, when you come, we actually have, as a welcome center, we actually have a bar set up. And we will give you free drinks. If you need gas money, you come and we'll give everybody who comes next week gas cards. If you need food, you come next week and Calvary Baptist Church will give everybody who comes a $100 gift card to any place you want to go for food. I guarantee you there will be more than 200 people showing up next week. We can do that. And we can get 201 people in here because we'd have to have overflow area because this parking lot would be filled. We could do that. And some churches do. Okay, I'm not saying they give out beer and everything else, but there are churches which have money that every week they have events to get people in. But if you preach the word of God, people won't come because they don't like to hear the word of God. Now it's summertime and you don't understand. I need to take vacation. Most people have been working from home. And people now are complaining because they're having to go back to work. You want to know why? They're having to pay for gas. And they're saying, hold on a minute. You don't understand. This guy was talking. He just had a Toyota, an SUV. And I forget where he's at. He's in D.C. area. This morning, he went and filled up his Toyota SUV that he's got, okay? The big one. He took a picture, okay? Took a picture, 18 gallons, $108. He said, this is the first time I've ever paid $100 for a tank of gas. And guess what? That's hitting all of the people now that are being forced to go back into work in their offices. Okay? So we could say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you gas cards. Guarantee you that next week this place would be packed. Because that's what people's looking for. We won't be the big church because we don't have the big money. We don't have the gas cards. We're not given free handouts all the time. That's why we quit doing some of the things that we do. Because people are coming because they look for places to go to get free stuff. Because why? We have become a society that says, get what you can. That's why people aren't working. Why should I work? And now they want to get rid of $10,000 of everybody's student loans. Well, what about the people that paid theirs off? Are you going to give them $10,000 back? I don't think so. Can I tell you why the cost of college is so bad? And then I'll finish. Because the government controls all student loans now. So guess what? We need to understand that these big giants that are out there, we're not going to solve it. They're still going to be here tomorrow, and they may be disguised as something else. What we need to understand is God has given us the resources to fight the giants in our life. Don't ask to be like somebody else. You could be somebody else and get sued by everybody in the world because you got money, and they want your money. What we need to understand is the only thing that I need and you need is God. And let me say this to you. God will allow you to go through things that you can't handle. Quit letting people tell you that God will not place anything on you that you can't handle. That is a lie from the pit of hell. Because Satan wants you to think you don't need God to handle your issues and your problems. This morning, as I finish, I'm done, is this. My question to you is this. What are you facing in your life, a giant right now? What is it? You got it? Now give it to God. Give it to him. That doesn't mean you don't think about it. You'll think about it, but what you're asking is, okay, God, you've got this. Now, what is it that you've equipped me with you, that you're providing me with? What gift are you giving me to help me fight this battle? What is your 5 little stones? Do you know? Because today those 5 little stones might be one thing, and tomorrow they might be something totally different. Because you're fighting a different battle. But the question is, do you know what they are? And if you don't, you better get into a conversation with God. Because he wants you to know. He does not want you to be ignorant of anything. He wants you to know. And he'll equip you.